Hey everybody, it's Council President Scott going live again with another COVID update on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Welcome everybody. We're going to just give some updates and of course always answer questions. So just want to give the latest information that we have available. We know today, early this morning, the mayor had a press conference where he signed a local state of emergency that went into effect at 12:01 p.m. today. He also did follow our request and ordered a delay of the city's tax sale. We also know that that's something that was coming up in a few weeks, and we wanted to make sure that that was delayed, especially in when we don't know how this situation is going to evolve over the next couple of weeks. Again, just to run through the basics, going to recap the mandates, right? So bars, restaurants, movie theaters, gyms are closed. Drive-through and deliveries and carry-out services can continue. No large gatherings, 50 people or more, are prohibited. No utility shutoffs, no late fees from utility companies, no tenants will be evicted. As of earlier, this latest information is that we have 86 cases in Maryland, 31 in Montgomery, 20 in Prince George's, 10 in Baltimore County, 4 in Anne Arundel County, 8 in Howard, 3 in Hartford, 5 in the city, 1 in Carroll, 2 in Charles, 1 in Frederick, and 1 in Talbot. We know that this will continue to spread. We know that we can help to prevent that by practicing, again, the social distancing, the cleaning techniques, the not gathering, all the information that we have to follow from our public health professionals. Travel request for an out-of-state conference was withdrawn from the BOE this morning at my request because we know we're not doing that. We instituted social distancing for the folks in the audience, spreading everything out there, and went about the business of the city, but did that in a very responsible way. Resources, everything that we talk about on these live streams, you can actually find a list of these resources on BaltimoreCityCouncil.com. You can see that information there, so you can get the food resources, who to call for what, where you can go to get that information. All on our website. It's just BaltimoreCityCouncil.com, and you will see on the right-hand side a COVID-19 link consistently. Yep, and I'm going to take a time here and see that if anybody has any early questions. So I see one right here on Instagram that says, when will it be announced if our students will be going back to school? We know, again, that this is a growing situation, and what's going to be happening is the school system is going to follow the advice of the best advice from the health professionals at the state and the local level, and they will be making that decision based on whether it's safe or not. Someone said, what about the city workers in office buildings? So the mayor has already said that anyone that can telework should be teleworking, and we're going to make sure that every agency is following that. We've been instituting that even in our own offices. And when people cannot telework, because some folks have to be here, they're essential folks that have to physically be, we want them to practice social distancing as well. So if you're a city worker and feel as though that your agency is not following the rules and protocols, feel free to send us a direct message and we'll be able to address that. There was some other questions. There was a question on Facebook around that as well from John Woods on Facebook. And again, if folks we want people to follow the directive to have people teleworking when at all possible. Everyone that can telework should be teleworking in the city of Baltimore. There was another question from Facebook saying that the senior citizens were closed and what's the backup plan. We cannot have groups of seniors who are the most vulnerable to this virus be gathering. What's happening at these senior citizens, there still are places where our seniors can come and get lunches and get their meals, and that information, of course, is on our website at BaltimoreCityCouncil.com. You can find that information there. And every senior center, the city, the ones that the city owns, you can get that information, and you can also get information for how seniors can call to get services as well. Find that right on our website, BaltimoreCityCouncil.com, and click the COVID-19 link. All right. Any other questions from anybody right now? Let's see. Someone said about people's medications. Again, this is where I think we all have to step up. We know that some prescriptions, especially for our seniors and stuff, can be done by mail, but pharmacies are still open. Grocery stores are still open. But if you have a family member, your grandmother, your mother, your neighbor, someone in your neighborhood that you know is a senior who needs prescriptions and cannot get that stuff sent to them in a different way, this is where we have to step up and do that for our neighbors, right? You cannot. Same thing with groceries, right? You cannot right now be allowing your grandmother and your grandfather to go out and do their own grocery shopping. You must do that for them. We must do the same thing for their prescriptions as well. Any other questions before I go any further? Let's see. Yes, actually, Candy 0704, it is absolutely time for us to take care of one another. This is the most important thing that we can do right now, is be there for each other during this crisis. Next thing I saw a question was about the people that are impacted by layoffs, right? Due to state and federal emergency guidance, and how that unemployment, even though unemployment will be starting in April, this will potentially have significant implications on our children and community. Listen, this is something that we're going to be working with, right? We will have discussions at the federal level. I spoke to some folks at the state level earlier about how we can work together to make sure that the people who are impacted by this, with their losing their jobs and their businesses, are going to be, we have to look out for them. So stay tuned. These discussions are going to be ongoing, and these things will be emerging as we go through the next few days and weeks. But rest assured, I will do everything in my power to make sure that people who are losing work, losing income because of this virus will be helped in some sort by the government. This is a critical time for us to step up and do things that we've never even considered before, because this is a process that we've never went through before. All right. Someone on Instagram asked about, will the malls be closing? Yes, what's happening right now, again, food courts are only for off-site consumption. You cannot go and sit at a food court. What seems to be happening is they are limiting their hours. They're doing 12 to 7 and 12 to 6 Monday through Saturday, and 12 to 6 on Sundays. But this is also where we can use our common sense, everybody. We should not. If you should not be gathering at work or at home or in church at 50 and above, we shouldn't all be running to the shoe store. We shouldn't all be going in the game shop, even though everyone wants to buy our games. We have to be responsible at all costs, right? So what we need to do is make sure that we are adhering to the advice of public health professionals at all costs. All right, let's see. Okay, are the markets still open? Again, yes, this is a question from Instagram. Yes, supermarkets, pharmacies are still open. You can also still go to the bank, right? These things are still open. We want people to get their essential things that you absolutely positively need to move forward. So yes, they are still open. Well, we also know that, again, that even restaurants and food service facilities that are closed are open for off-site consumption, takeout, and delivery. So please continue to support them. Oh, I just see that my good friend Mayor Tubbs of Stockton, California just joined us. Mr. Mayor, how are you? And I see that someone asked a question about calling in the troops. Listen, how do you have to be prepared? We know that the governor has activated the National Guard, but what that is about being prepared. We want us to be able to make it through this crisis in a way where we are able to trust our citizens and work with each other so that we are not having to live through that kind of situation. This is what we're trying to do here. Being responsible, however, also means that you have to be prepared, as this is a global pandemic. We have to be prepared to take action, and whatever action is necessary. All right, so we're gonna go through a little bit more info here, and then go to some more questions. Let's see here. So, I want to show something very basic, and this is the very basic thing that you can do to help. And I know everybody, this might be cheesy, but I'm gonna do it and put it up here. So, hand washing techniques, right? We're gonna put this information out because we know that now in Maryland, this is now being passed from person to person. So we have to make sure that we're cleaning our hands, that we're washing surfaces, that we're taking care of ourselves in every way in order to slow down the spread of COVID, so that we're not passing it off to other people. Also, again, this is why it's important for us to try to limit interaction and also practice that social distancing, so that we cannot continue to transfer COVID. You might not get sick, especially for those who are younger. You might not exhibit any of the symptoms, but you could pass it on to someone who will, especially when you're talking about our seniors, people with pre-existing conditions, right? All right. Let's see what else. Also, separate from COVID, right? We cannot, in the midst of this crisis, we cannot forget about a crisis that has been ongoing for Baltimore for far too long. And we know something that has been spreading throughout Baltimore for far too long, and that's gun violence. Yesterday, I was spending some time out in East Baltimore with my good brother Munir Bahar and the folks from CORE in East Baltimore. We were out there trying to spread this information in a safe way with gloves, practicing social distancing to communities in East Baltimore that we know don't have access to the internet, don't have all of these kind of things that people absolutely need here, because we wanted to make sure that everyone has access to that information, right? So we were Milton, Biddle, Preston, all the areas where we know people may not see this information on live, they may not see this information on Facebook or Twitter, but we have to make sure that it continuously is getting out to those individuals as well. So while I was there, unfortunately, there was a shooting over on the west side of town where 7 individuals were shot. Seven people were shot. That's something that is extremely, extremely unacceptable at any time, especially during a crisis like this, especially when we are dealing with a situation. We cannot lose sight that gun violence is something that is critical in Baltimore and that has been impacting Baltimore City for far too long. And we will continue to the same exact way that we are dealing with COVID, in the same vigor and commitment that we have in Baltimore to stopping the spread of COVID-19. We have to be dedicated to stopping the spread of gun violence the same way, right? So everything that we do in Baltimore also have to consider how we're going to stop violence from spreading in Baltimore. So think about the things that have continued to happen in the city in the midst of all this. When you have 7 people shot, when you have a bus driver shot, we all have to step up and figure out what we can do. I am going to continue to pressure our police department and all our agencies to do a better job of dealing with it, from stopping the flow of guns into the city of Baltimore, dealing with the people immediately that are committing these acts of violence, also to dealing and starting a different way for us to build better neighborhoods and communities. But we all have to pitch in to do more. I am going to stop now and take some more questions. Kels just asked, homeless shelters remaining open. Yes, so we have a shelter in place thing for our homeless shelters policy right now. So they are taking people in, they're not putting them back out on the street. So thank you for that question. And I'm going to pause now to see if there are any other questions that anyone has. Questions, Facebook, Twitter, let's see. Someone asked a question about Baltimore County. What we will do is, if you send us a direct message, we will send a response to you that will allow you to be able to contact folks in Baltimore County about that. Anybody else have any other questions for us? If not, I'm gonna continue. All right. Let's see. All right, great. So, last couple things before we break for today. Just a quick recap. Local state of emergency has been enacted by the mayor here in Baltimore City, in addition to the statewide state of emergency issued by the governor. We also we have on our website, and we're going to make sure again that we post that information on our social media feeds so that everyone can see them, about the limitations now of MTA. People are now being asked to board on the back of the bus, right? There's been a reduction to the services for MTA. The trains are operating on the Saturday schedule. We're going to make sure that all that information is out so that people can continuously see that information, and we'll put that on our website as well, as long as our social media, because we still want people to get to and from work. Yes, a question again about the supermarkets and pharmacies. Absolutely, they are open, and they are remaining open because they are essential to people be able to get their food and obviously their medications as well. Yes, again, this is a question that we answered earlier. It is possible that schools could be closed longer, right? But that decision is going to be made by the individuals at the school system based on the best advice from our public health professionals. So just stay tuned. They will make that decision as we move forward. And we do not know when they're going to be reopening schools as well. Same. Another question about schools. Same thing goes for that as well. Anybody else have any other questions? You guys can ask us any questions. The last few minutes here will be for questions only, and then we will end for the day. And you can always direct message us with your questions so that we can make sure that we get them to you. And you're welcome. I'm here to serve. Questions, anybody? Facebook, none. Twitter, none. Instagram, none. All right. So what I will say again, the last thing I'll say is, everyone, the most important thing that we can do is follow the advice of our public health professionals, is to take care of each other, look out for one another, make sure that we're being friendly, being neighbors, checking on our family and our friends. Together is how we will make it through this, and we have to continuously also not lose sight of the other issues in Baltimore City, gun violence being at the top of that list. So that's a couple more questions that I see really quickly. Again, there were 5 cases in Baltimore. The access to the food and lunches is for now until schools and rec centers are back open. And for the question about first responders, send me a direct message that further expounds upon that, and you and I can have a conversation about what exactly you're asking. All right. No, your last question, the newspaper about the arrest thing. So thank you, everybody, and be sure we'll be back live again tomorrow. And always remember, you can find us on all of our social media platforms to get the latest information in between the live updates. Thank you all.